everyone, and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name is David Edgar, and as always, I am your host, and I'm joined this week by the Heart and Hand stalwart, Colin McMillan. Hello, Colin.
Hello, David. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we well since you've been on the flagship, so I thought I would bring your dulcet tones back to the flagship. Of course, you can hear Colin regularly on Patreon, where he has a number of shows. But yes, Colin, like myself, was at Ibrox on Sunday as Rangers finally recorded a home victory, our first since February. The start of February as well, Colin. Absolutely shocking statistic. And let's be honest, one that can never, ever be repeated.
No, it really can. It was just nice to go to Ibrox on Sunday, and the weather was nice. The team played well for one half of football, and we got 3 points. That shouldn't be out of the ordinary. We shouldn't really be really happy with that, David. But at the minute, we were, and it kind of shows us where we've been this season, and we kind of what we've sadly had to accept, or if not accept, live with. So yeah, we can never go February to May again without winning at Ibrox. It's an absolute horrendous thing, and it's something that I think probably would be a lot more up in arms about, David, and a lot more upset and angry about if there wasn't off-the-field stuff coming on to pacify us a little bit. I think that's kind of the only thing that's rescued it, I think.
I think so, yeah. I don't think there's much doubt about that, to be honest. I think the situation would be incredibly bleak were it not for the upcoming takeover. But, yeah, Rangers took to field. Now, interestingly, Colin, before the match, there was a lot of debate among the support about the team lineup because it was the same side that had played last week against Celtic, and I think that there was some disappointment in some supporters' eyes that we are not going with the likes of Inciala or even Cortez. Barry Ferguson spoke about that afterwards, about Cortez, Danilo, etc. And he says he picks the team on merit, what they show in training. He doesn't bring players in if they don't deserve to play. That was countered by some supporters who got in touch with us at Heart and Hand and, replied to our messages and stuff and said that, well, yeah, he's wanting to win the game and I get that, but surely we should be looking ahead to the future. Where do you stand on that particular debate? Because it is a tough one. Barry's thing is we need to win the game. There are X amount of thousands of people who are here to see that today. We haven't won for 3 months. I've got to pick the strongest 11. I can't just pick someone and say, I don't think you deserve to be in the side, but, I'm going to put you in because you might be here next season, whereas another player might not be.
It's a really difficult one, isn't it? Because we couldn't finish the season without having at Ibrox since February. So we do have to get that. I get it from a Barry Ferguson point of view as well. He doesn't want to be the Rangers interim manager that never won a game at Ibrox either. So I guess for him, he probably sees that as a massive thing and he wants to make that happen. But I think if you take your immediate and your here and now specs off and look at bigger picture, where we're at, where we need to get to, it does make more sense to have guys like Inciala, Cortez, giving them minutes rather than your likes of Lawrence or other players that might not be here next season. That's probably the sensible thing to do, but football's not often kind of catered to sensible thoughts sometimes, David. It's all about the here and now, it's about the heart, and it's about getting that victory. So I think he's between a rock and a hard place, really, and given the fact that he's come in and not had that victory, and he would have wanted that, I think, for his own self-esteem, his own kind of, so he can look back at his time and know that he did that. He would have wanted that. I'd be surprised now to see what he does on Wednesday and what he does at the weekend. Now that he's kind of got that off his back, I suppose, maybe now's the time to, at least in these last 2 games, give some minutes to people. He talked about Cortez having to earn those minutes. There's only so much you can do on the training ground or sat on the bench. You need to give him some exposure to try and earn extra minutes and more time, because otherwise we're just never going to know with these guys. When we go into another season unknown with these guys, we need to give them an opportunity. So hopefully Wednesday into the weekend, we do mix it up a little bit rather than just the status quo, because I don't know about you, I've had enough of a lot of the status quo.
Yeah, I had some sympathy for that at the start of the game, but I think when we were winning quite comfortably, to bring on, for example, Tom Lawrence rather than Cortez, I didn't understand that. When he spoke afterwards, then listening to his post-match, I think it's a case of, is he telling us that Cortez just isn't training well at all? But then he is on the bench, so it's a little bit confusing. Tom Lawrence is going to leave in the summer.
Definitely.
So there's no upside to that. Now, you might play him if you want to try and get a result, I understand that, but we were winning that match comfortably at that point, and it was in no danger of slipping away. So I didn't quite understand that one so much. And we are going to be stuck with Oscar Cortez. That deal is done. I know a lot of Rangers fans are still clinging to there must be a get out. There isn't. effectively he's our player, we can pay the fee and take his registration and immediately sell him on. Don't get me wrong, you can do that, but you can't just say to loans, actually, no, I'm not going to bother with that. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. But that meant then we lined up in a 4-4-2 diamond. Now, I think that the way Aberdeen lined up took all of us by surprise. When I saw their team line up, they had left Nisbet and Pat Gay, their main strikers, on the bench. They'd left Shaden Morris on the bench as their main creative player. And it looked a very stuffy side. And I was surprised, Colin, by the way that they approached this match. Because without meaning to be overly critical, I think the results point this. I don't think I'm saying anything revelatory. Rangers have been very poor at home over this season, but particularly the last few months. And the teams that have come to Ibrox and got something haven't done so by coming and sitting in and trying to hold on and hit on the break. If you look at St Mirren, Motherwell and Hibs, they came and had a go. They came and they were diligent defensively, but they didn't put 10 men behind the ball and hope for a set piece. They were pressing us high up the park and getting in our faces. And Aberdeen just didn't do that at all. And after the match, Barry Ferguson said that he was frustrated because he thought this game's here for the taking. And he was absolutely correct. And of course, we'll come to the changes that he made. But in that first half, I was just really surprised. Aberdeen played what Livingston used to do. And you can understand Livingston doing it, and it was better Rangers teams they were up against. But there were times in that half we would have the ball and would be passing it around, trying to get in behind. And Aberdeen had literally all 10 outfield players within 30 yards of their goal.
It really surprised me, David, because like you say, we've not got that fear factor for clubs anymore coming to Ibrox this season. Clubs are coming and having a goal like never before, and they're getting some joy out of doing it, sadly. So I did think Aberdeen being Aberdeen and how we'd always their biggest games of the season, they would come potentially smelling blood and thinking they could do something and wanting to do something. The only thing I can think of is they've just got their eyes on this cup final and they're not wanting to risk any injuries to their key men. And like you said, they're pretty solid in their league position. We're solid in ours. Nothing's going to change. The game is pointless from that point of view. So maybe it was them being sensible, perhaps, like we spoke about earlier.
Yeah, but they haven't clinched third. And although I do take your point, because there is the difference between logic and emotion. Logically, they should be saying, we need to get that. We can finish third. Emotionally, I think they're going, I want to play in the cup final.
Yeah, that's
and I can understand that from a human point of view. But what it led to in the first half was a really dreadful game of football, because Rangers were very blunt in our attacks. We didn't create very much at all. And Aberdeen were just happy to sit in, fill in space. And it became really quite dull, I think. I think I tweeted after 20 minutes this would get football stopped, and it was that sort of end of season. They were happy for us to have the ball. We had the ball without doing too much, and it didn't really spark into life until the last couple of moments in the half.
I saw it described as a pre-season friendly type game.
Yeah,
it felt more to me like, the pre-season friendly when you go on tour and you play the very first game where you change all the team and you always look forward to it because it's the first time you see the team after a month or two, but it's always awful. That's what it felt like to me. It didn't even feel like one of the glamour friendlies or ones that you would enjoy. It was just players going through the motions. There was slack passes. People weren't trying things really. It just looked like they'd had enough and they just wanted the season to come to an end. And this game was an inconvenience to most of the people taking part in it, sadly. It just wasn't fun in that first half whatsoever.
No, there was very little to recommend it. A Tav cross for a header for Cyril Dessers that he really should have buried. And that was about it. Aberdeen had a chance with a ball over the top. Keskinen got in. Good save, actually, from Liam Kelly. But it was, as Colin said, it was slow. It was very pedestrian. Neither side were doing too much. There was one moment of controversy, and that was a tackle midway through the first half on Nedum Bajrami. Now, at the game, I have to admit, I thought, that's borderline. That's got to be one that gets looked at. The referee booked him, and there was no doubt it was minimum a yellow card tackle by Tobers. When I saw it back, I have to admit, I'm not sure how it doesn't hit the criteria for a red card. It's high, it's late, it's dangerous, and it catches him on the knee. And you can hurt someone very badly doing that. I didn't understand why VAR didn't get involved in that, because to me, I seemed to hit all the criteria.
It certainly did. It certainly did in real time at the game. People were
that's the thing.
furious. It looked like one that you didn't really need the benefit of replays and VAR for, to be honest. And then before I saw the replay, I saw a couple of stills of it, and they made it look terrible, really bad. But the stills always do, to be fair. But when I did see the replay back, I've seen them given plenty of times. And it was a tackle, David, that wasn't really in line with the game or the match we were watching either. Obviously,
games against Aberdeen, the ref.
Yeah, games against Aberdeen can have tackles like that and frequently have done, but it just came out of nowhere. And like we said a minute or so ago, both sets of players weren't really trying much. There wasn't a lot of effort getting displayed in that first half. And then this crazy tackle came in. And you're right, maybe that did influence the referee, and he gave it that Scottish first 5-10 minutes rule, but he did it in 33 minutes because it was such a bad game. I don't know. But yeah, I've seen them given, and I was surprised, and I wonder what would have happened if it was our player that made the tackle.
Well, that is always a consideration. And the game sort of limped on towards half-time, then a flurry of activity. Rangers almost scored a replica of the goal we scored against Celtic last week. Through ball, step over, Dessers on it, good finish. Unfortunately, he was offside, and he was offside, there's no doubt about it. Aberdeen, they went up the other end, got a free kick, put it in, but Rangers' Daba was offside. Rangers' offside trap actually worked very well. That wasn't luck, that's deliberate. That what you're doing is you're trying to catch them offside. It's risky if you don't get it right, but they did get it right, so fair play. And half-time came. Substitutions by both, and it would appear that they were both going for it as attackers came on. I'm obviously more concerned about our substitute. First of all, the player going off, Nedum Bajrami. Colin, this has not been a successful signing. He's had the occasional moment, but they seem to have been quite a while ago away now. And to me, he just doesn't look like a player who particularly wants to be here now. That might be true, that might not be true. We don't know. We'll probably find out in the summer. But since he's arrived, I think he's kind of looked like, his best games have come against Celtic when he's been doing a more defensive role, when he's been put on Callum McGregor, and it's worked really well. He's been very good at it, but that wasn't why he was signed. He was signed for days like this, to be a creative force. And him coming off at half-time, deservedly so, because he did a very poor half, on top of no real great form to back him up. He's a player I would look to move on in the summer if we can get our money back on him.
Yeah, he's a guy who we came in, I think we were all quite excited about. We'd seen him in the summer at the Euros. We'd seen that goal, obviously, so he'd got the headlines for that. So he was one that we were aware of, and I think we were quite excited to see. But you're right, it's been few and far between. Is he potentially a player that would do better in a team with better players in it? Possibly, but I don't know if that's what we need. I think we need guys that can do it at any time, really, and we've been looking for people this season to be a shining light, or guys that can be that little bit better, and he on paper should be, hasn't been. You're right, he has sat on Callum McGregor a couple of times and stiffed him out of matches, which is great, but it's not what we paid that money for. It's not what we want him to do. We don't really invest that money in players to do that twice or three times a season for us. We need more from him, and I don't know where his stock is in the game now, David, after this year, if we do get the same money back for him, if we can move him on. But he's someone who I wouldn't be upset at seeing go and then reinvest that money somewhere else and put it down as one that hasn't worked, sadly.
And I think that the player himself kind of gives off that vibe that maybe he would prefer to go somewhere else as well, in which case, better just everybody shaking hands and moving on. But the player who came on, Hamza Gaman, was to have a remarkable effect in the game, really changed it. Rangers changed system at this point from that time and went with two up front with Cerny going in behind and a flat midfield three. And from then on, two things changed. One, Rangers far better, far more link-up, quick, incisive attacking up front, which helped. And the other thing, Colin, was Nico Raskin went, right, bugger this, I'm winning this game, and turned in a superb performance for the next 40 minutes or so. Yeah,
Nico Raskin was excellent in that second half, and Egeman as well. We were picking Man of the Match awards on the post-match car project on the Patreon site, and we don't often like to talk about substitutes and bring them into that conversation, but he did get the full 45 minutes. But he did make a big difference in the game. Just him coming on, and him being able to and willing to try things, David, and to get things going and not giving up, it just made such a big difference. And I think that kind of spurred the rest of the team on. It certainly spurred the crowd on as well. There was a couple of moments I'm sure you'll get to when he had some skills and some stuff that he did that just got you up off your feet, and it just changed the whole kind of structure of the game from a on the pitch point and from a kind of spectator's point of view. You're somebody you're happy to see, he gets you excited, and he's not scared, he doesn't hide. Things go wrong for him and it doesn't always work, but he tries and he does things, and that's why we're so fond of him. And we talk about being quite happy for Bajrami to go. If we can lock Eagleman up in his house for the next 2 months, not let him do either, we'll be happier with that, I think, because I don't want him to go anywhere.
See, I think you've touched on something very important there, and avid listeners say to me, you're too hard on Cyril Dessers and you're too soft on Hamza Gamam. And look, we all like different players. I like Dessers as a bloke, a human being, and a professional. He just drives me nuts on the park sometimes. Yesterday, a case in point with that header in the first half. But one of the things that you have to admire about him is he keeps going. And of course, he gets his goal. But in a team that has been devoid for a couple of seasons now, incidentally, of someone who gets you off your seat and gets you excited, Eggman does that. Because, as you say, he does things and he tries things and he gives you spectacular. So I possibly will give someone like that a little bit more leeway. I admit that. These are the guys that I think we pay money to see. Nobody, I think, pays money to watch the centre-backs pass it back and forth to each other.
No.
I don't think that's a thing that fans are really into. And with Eggman, you're right, there was a couple of bits of ball juggling, a couple of nutmegs, beating a man. And he sometimes overdoes it. And he sometimes picks the wrong option. There was another break on where he had a simple pass, he didn't take it and then chose the wrong option. Those are things that I hope and I think can improve with experience.
Yeah.
And can improve with working with managers and just getting better at. Because although he's not that young, he's in his early 20s, he's not a teenager, but he's young in his football career at this level. This being really his first season at this level. So I think I do take that into account. But yeah, he definitely changed it along with Nico. First of all, Nico sets up the opening goal for Cerny. I liked him through the middle, Colin. He's been a wee bit, I think, flat looking the last few weeks out in the wing. I think he's looked tired and he's played a lot more football this season than he's played for the last couple of years in his career. And I think you can tell that at this stage of the season. He looks jaded. But when he moved into the middle, he began to cause a lot more problems than he'd done out in the wing. And I like that. And of course, he's so good in that situation when he gets put one-on-one with a keeper.
Yeah, you've just got confidence in him. He's one of the players in the team that you've got the most confidence. If he gets himself in that position, he'll put it away and he'll make it count. He has been good this season, especially out wide. Maybe just the opposition teams maybe have got a bit wise to the tricks that he does and what he's capable of out wide, and maybe that's why he's also been a little bit quieter in the last month or two, as well as the kind of tired issues and playing all those extra games that he wouldn't normally be playing at his previous clubs. But yeah, when he went into the middle, it seemed to just spark something. He was able to do a couple of different things, and the balls were getting played to him to actually be the attacking threat rather than him trying to create stuff for other people, and that was just quite a nice change of space for him. And he took the goal brilliantly. Really, the ball from Raskin from midfield right through their defence, and he took it and put it through the goalkeeper's legs. It was a brilliant goal that we needed at that time in the game. We really did.
Yeah, we absolutely did. And then, it escalated quickly. It wasn't too long before we made it 2-0. Again, lovely play by Nico Raskin out on the touchline. Aberdeen defender, I thought, sold himself really far too early. But Nico was calm, went, okay, well, just wave him goodbye, and then he cut inside, played a ball across, and Dessers where good strikers should be to get his tap in, and at that point the game was done. Then came the special moment, the one thing I think people will remember about the match yesterday, and that was Hamza Eggman's goal. This is just ability. You either have it or you don't. The ball kicked out by an Aberdeen defender. He puts if you actually watch it, he sticks his leg up in the air to control it, and then before it hits the ground, it loops up. Before it hits the ground, he smashes it on the volley, low into the corner on the dip. It was a truly lovely goal.
It was just a fantastic goal to see. I was right behind the Copeland when that went in, so I had a really good angle of that like yesterday, and it was fantastic. And like you said, it's just pure skill. You could put me and you in a training ground, David, for 100 years, and we just wouldn't be able to do that. But he's got that in his locker. He can do things like that. And he's got the confidence to try it, which is sometimes even more important. And that's why we like him. We talked earlier about him not being scared to try things and make stuff happen. A lot of other players in that position, when that ball broke to them, they would have looked for the pass, looked to see what they could do. Not him. His first instinct was tee this up and bang. And that's exactly what he did. Great goal. And I can't think of many better ones this season in the league, to be honest.
See, this is something that I think in modern football increasingly, when players are coached to the nth degree, and where they're to be and set patterns of play and what to do in any specific situation. And I think football's become a bit sterile because of that over the last few years. This season, thanks to the emergence of, because, the top level of football influences all throughout it, teams all play like Pep now, basically, or trying to, playing it from the back. But this year, the emergence of this PSG team with their forward line, Kvaratskhelia, Desiree Doué, Barcola, Dembele, and Barcelona with Yamal and Rafinha, that this kind of, okay, you can still be regimented and try and win the ball back and know where you're supposed to be when we don't have possession and work hard. It's not like, the Mbappe Neymar thing of, right, if the ball's not up here, we don't do anything. But you still should allow creative players to be creative. And you're absolutely right. And I think it's a balance to have on a player like Hamza. He needs coached to improve, but you don't want to coach all of that out of him, that spontaneity. It's a rare gift in modern football.
It really is. And you don't want to coach that out of a player that's got it. You always remember, you've just mentioned a bunch of current players that do that sort of stuff. You remember players coming through. They have that. Wayne Rooney, I think, is a really good example of a guy that came through that just had that raw skill and that raw ability to do things, even from a young age. And look at the career he went on to have. I think Hamza's got that sort of ability about him, where he's not got that experience of years and years playing football. And his first full season playing proper football is this, playing in this basket case of a league that we've got here as well, which it must be a strange grounding for him as well. But yeah, I really like the guy. He's came at a really good time for us when we're looking for a hero, looking for a player we can all get behind. It must be great for the younger kids and the young guys going to the game, having somebody like that they can watch and enjoy, because we have been starved of that, David. I looked at that starting lineup yesterday, and Nico Raskin aside, there's just nobody in that 11 that really gets you excited anymore. There's none there that you think, I'm really looking forward to see what they do today, or what he's capable of this, or he can do that. We just don't have it at the moment. The squad needs completely overhauled. And when we've got somebody like him that does do the unlikely and does get you up off your seat and can do that little bit of magic, we need to hold on to that and have that as long as we can.
Yeah, you need to graft that onto the organisation that we talked about. That's why I think everyone's in love with this PSG team this season, because they work hard, and they pass the ball and they move the ball the way in modern football we see. But they trust these guys when the ball gets them. Yeah, go and take somebody on. Don't worry, if you lose the ball, we'll get it back. And I think it's been refreshing after seeing almost robotic football played by so many sides. There was time for a fourth, and we could have had a few more. Tom Lawrence with a spectacular free kick that forced a good save. But the fourth goal did come. Lovely move by Rangers, this. Just moving the ball right across from one wing to the other, ending up with a shot by Raskin and Cerny that takes a deflection off Jefty and goes in, and he's claiming it. And I don't blame him. I would have as well for his first goal. Thought he was a bit better yesterday, Colin. Not great, but a bit better yesterday. He's had an up and down season. The up really at the start, and then the down, along with the rest of the side, it must be said, later in the year. I've maybe been a bit harsh on him. I admit that. I still wouldn't necessarily be against selling him. I think Ridvan, we absolutely categorically need to sell this summer. I don't think he's much use for us. Jefty, I wouldn't be devastated if he stays, but I would still consider a move if it came in for him. But I do need to take into account that he is also, a younger player. And again, is he one of the ones that with better players?
He's younger than I think people remember. So maybe he does get it a little bit tighter than he probably should, given his experience and the learning curve he's going through as well. I think I'd put him in that category, David, where if he goes, okay, fair enough, but I think there's far bigger queue of players in the queue in front of him that we need to get rid of before him. So yeah, if he stays and he's in competition for that left-back place next season with another new left-back that's hopefully going to push him, then yeah, I wouldn't be massively upset at him staying. I think he does have some upsides, and he can develop and can get better. I think it's probably the defensive side of his game he needs to improve on more than his attacking one.
I think he needs more numbers, don't get me wrong, going forward, and hopefully that will be the start of it. I don't think he creates quite as much as an attacking fullback should, but defensively, yes, there's been times where you're ripping your hair out. He does have to improve at that, no matter where he ends up.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be the centre half, whatever centre half's at his side usually in the game helps him quite a bit. You notice that in the game, you don't really want them to have to be doing that. So yeah, that's a big thing that he can work on and improve, and then he becomes a much better all-round player. But I wouldn't be chasing him out the door, but again, I wouldn't be devastated if he went as well. And that's kind of where we're at with a lot of these players, sadly.
So a pretty solid victory for Rangers, as Colin said, didn't really mean very much in the grand scheme of things. It was a nice day in the sun for us, the second half anyway, and a nice result. But interestingly, after the match in the press conference, I think this was really the first indication from Barry that he will not be here next season, where he spoke a couple of lines. He said, "I've 5 days more with the players for these next 2 games, and there's 2 more games and that's it," kind of thing. And with it saying it, I got the impression that he knows now that he's going, because he had been, still keeping himself and trying to keep himself in the conversation in his press conferences. But to be honest, Colin, for me, for him to land the job, he had to do something exceptional. And although there have been moments that I'm grateful for, an away win at Parkhead, the Fenerbahce away, there haven't been enough. Now, if you want to say that, well, that playing squad and the attitude of some of them, what chance did they have? I think I have a bit of sympathy with that, but it still doesn't change the fact, for him to be in contention for this role, he had to do something, I think, almost exceptional, and he hasn't.
No, he hasn't. I think we needed to go and win that Europa League or something. That points deficit in the league had to massively reduce, and it just didn't happen. The time it took to get that home victory and stuff. And you know what? It is potentially harsh because it's not all on him. He came into a very difficult job with a squad that was in a very, very bad place that he wasn't going to be able to fix really or change overnight. But he's not shown enough for me from a tacticalness point of view, of ability to change things quickly enough or to mix things up. Like I say, a couple of good results. He did well at Parkhead and got the victory there, which will mean a lot to him, I'm sure. It meant a lot at the time, but just not enough. And even if he had pulled off something extraordinary, David, I still think it'd be a massive gamble of giving someone with his experience levels that sort of a job at any time, but never mind asking them to lead a complete overall on the pitch. A massive transfer window, a massive bunch of transfer windows coming up. This isn't going to be sorted in the summer. This is going to be summer, winter into next season before we really get everything sorted in terms of what we need to do with this squad. So I think it was always past them, and I'm glad that he's now starting to make that clear that he now knows that, because I get by beforehand they had to be bullish and I'd say that I want the job, I'm in contention, because if he's there working them every day and getting them up for the games, he's got to have that belief and he's got to give them that belief that he's going to be here. So I understand why he did it, but I think we all knew, and in his heart of hearts he must have known as well. And he will go with the best wishes that he's always had for being Barry Ferguson and being the captain, being the guy that he did. He's come in and he's not disgraced himself. He's not really put a foot wrong in terms of anything I can think of massively negatively. It's just not the job for him, sadly. It's too big.
Yeah, I think at this moment in time we need someone with a better track record, more experience. It really is that simple. But you're right. I mean, he came into the situation basically, doing his duty as a Ranger, and I think the fans do appreciate that, and we'll look back fondly on a couple of the moments as mentioned. But we do need to go in a different direction. And of course, there are various names being mentioned for the Rangers job. And in terms, though, of the bookies odds, people usually make a big thing of this. Derek McInnes was at one point favourite for the Rangers job, which
it doesn't take a lot of money to change that.
Indicates this market is tiny, yes, considering that he's off to Hearts, and I don't think he's ever been in contention for this job on this occasion. So, yeah, it is interesting, but I don't think we're any further along, really, in knowing who it is. In terms of announcement, Colin, I've kind of changed. I expected that the takeover would be announced and then the manager would be announced, so that the new owners could be stood there and this is our guy. Against that, even though they're involved in the choosing, obviously, against that though, with the news from Dave King that it's probably mid-June before the takeover is completed and announced, Rangers clearly need a new manager in place before that. Do you think it will be a case of, right, we'll get to the end of this season and then you've got a clear cut-off point. It's like, that's that season done. Thank you, Barry, and then an announcement.
I think that probably is what it has to be, given the really, really tight timescales we're going to be working towards this summer with European qualifiers coming, I think, 22nd, 23rd of July is going to be, we need to be ready for those matches. Those matches are huge and we've got to have players in the door, ready to go, ready to perform. So we need to get somebody. Ideally, I'd have somebody here already and on the pitch on Saturday waving to us, David, if it was my way. I think given what was spoken about at the CEO fans forum a couple of weeks ago and what we've been hearing and stuff like that, the takeover is on its way. It is going to happen. There seems to be massive dialogue happening, not about will we take over, it's about what will we do when we take over. So there's discussions happening. What the current board are doing, it seems to be in line with what the new guys are wanting to do. So I don't think bringing a new manager in now, the takeover and the interested parties will be involved in that. There'll be discussions.
They're picking them. I mean,
that's happening. It's just all the stuff that goes into a big deal. This is why it's not happened yet. So they can be getting work done before their feet are under the table, I guess, and bringing the manager in, and letting him cook, basically, let him go and let him start doing his stuff because we need it. It's such a huge summer. So the sooner the better for me. And if this season finishes for us on Saturday and we make an announcement on Monday, fantastic, because we can then just start looking forward to it and enjoying it and actually thinking properly about what's going to be rather than who's it going to be. I think we all just want to know now and we can start dreaming again, I guess.
Yep, that's exactly it. So that's almost us, Colin. But just before we go, it was the annual Retro Shirt Day in honour of Jimmy Bell, the late great kitman at Ibrox on Sunday, and very, very well supported as always. And today, as we record, the news came that there was a leaked image of the new Rangers top. It's a very plain top, really. To me, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the 97 to 99 one with the collar.
Yeah.
And then other people have pointed out the resemblance to the 2010-11 kit. I'll be honest, I'm a bit of a stick in the mud when it comes to home tops. I like them to be plain. I like them to be very straightforward. And Rangers, royal blue top, white bits. You can have some red if you want. I'm not desperate for any red in it, but certainly I quite like it. Simple, effective, clean. I like that one.
Yeah, if we brought out a home top that we couldn't compare to other seasons of some point, then something's gone far wrong, I think. So it's good that the ones it's compared to are nice ones. I like it. I like the collar. It's a little bit different and it's not offensive and it's something that I'd happily wear. So at the age of 40, that's all I really look for in a home Rangers top, to be honest.
You have enough kits now that you can experiment on thirds and fourths kits. Those are the ones that I think you can make a bit more wild. I just like the home one to be, blue.
Yeah, that's it. It's worked for a long time. There's no need to change it. But yeah, I like the look of it. I'm looking forward to seeing it in the flesh. There's a lot of sponsorship and stuff around it, but I get why that has to be. It would be great if Umbro had some fan options where you didn't have all that sort of stuff, but I doubt that will happen. They do just on all shirts from all clubs. They just, now you're seeing it on the arms. We've got it on the back with the Seco stuff. It is a bit much, but we will take the money wherever we can get it. So I can't complain too much about that too much, really.
Yeah, I hope though it kind of stops here, because if you look at some kits in France, for example, where it's like, good God, you can't see the strip for
It's like Mexico's the big one for that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's literally like every bit of the strip is covered in a sponsor, to the point where I think it's ineffective from a sponsorship point of view.
Yeah.
You can't make it who's who. So no, I totally agree with you on that. Right then, folks, that will do us for this week here on Heart and Hand. We'll be back next week when the last game of the season will have taken place. Cammy will be with you here later in the week to preview that match against Hibs and, of course, to go over the match with Dundee United that takes place at Ibrox on Wednesday. If you want to hear more from us, then go to our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Heart and Hand, where you'll get up to 5 shows every single day, even through the summer. We'll keep you up to date on everything that's happening, what promises to be an epochal summer for the club. My thanks to our producers, Mike Lee and Paul Myers from Playback, and my thanks to Colin McMillan.
Pleasure, David. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
We'll be back next week. Until then, folks, have a good one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.